There are names that once appeared on every screen, called icons by millions of viewers, but fame does not always go hand in hand with an easy life. Behind the success of classic Hollywood stars are stories of professional pressure, unexpected turning points, and challenges that the public rarely sees. In this video, we will explore different perspectives on Hollywood legends and better understand the human being behind the famous image. Which story do you think is the most memorable? Leave a comment, hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell to continue following fascinating content. Richard Burton was one of the most distinctive-voiced and charismatic actors of the 20th century. When he appeared on stage or screen, audiences were easily captivated by his deep, resonant voice, self-assurance, and ability to portray characters with profound depth.
Moral philosophers measuring everything they do against the word of God or Karl Marx. Squalid bastards like me. Little men, drunkards, queers, henpecked husbands.
Born in Wales, Burton began his career in theater before becoming one of the most prominent faces of international cinema. His roles in works such as Beckett, the spy who came in from the cold, and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf helped him gain recognition as an artist of rare talent. However, behind the image of an admired star was a life constantly accompanied by immense pressure. Burton faced personal struggles, including health issues and a long-standing drinking habit that lasted for years. During the peak of his career, especially when he and Elizabeth Taylor became one of the most famous couples in the world, every aspect of his life became a focal point of public attention. Fame brought Burton prestige and opportunity, but it also made it difficult to keep his private problems hidden.
Now, the first voice he wrote for himself, second voice he wrote for me.
What makes Richard Burton's story so memorable is not just the controversy surrounding his life, but the contrast between an artist of extraordinary talent and a man struggling with his own limits. He left behind a significant legacy in cinema, where his acting talent is still discussed across generations. Burton's life shows that even those with the brightest spotlight can face very ordinary challenges behind the scenes. In 1931, Bela Lugosi stepped onto the screen with the title role in Dracula and quickly became an icon of the horror genre. With his unique gaze-mysterious aura and captivating acting style, Lugosi created a classic vampire image that generations of viewers still remember today. The character of Dracula not only brought him fame, but also turned him into one of the most famous faces of early Hollywood.
No, Dracula never ends. I don't know whether I shall ends. I don't know whether I shall brag or complain.
But that success also created a major challenge in Lugosi's career. After the powerful impression of Dracula, he was frequently typecast in similar roles in horror films. While audiences loved the mysterious image he created, the film industry struggled to see Lugosi in other roles. Along with that long-standing health issues stemming from his military service and personal difficulties made his life increasingly complicated. In the final years of his career, Lugosi no longer appeared frequently in major projects as he once had. However, that could not diminish his special place in cinematic history. Bela Lugosi's story is not just about an actor struggling after a great success, but it also reflects a familiar reality in the entertainment industry. Sometimes a character so famous can be both the greatest gift and the hardest challenge to overcome. Today, Lugosi's name is still remembered as one of the most important icons of classic horror cinema. In the early 1940s, Gail Russell was considered one of Hollywood's most promising young faces. With her gentle beauty-striking eyes and fragile on-screen demeanor, she quickly caught the audience's attention. However, unlike many other young stars who craved the limelight, Russell was a naturally reserved person who did not actively seek fame. She entered the film industry at a very young age, in an environment that demanded rapid maturity. Early fame brought Gail Russell many opportunities, but it also placed great pressure on her shoulders. A grueling work schedule, studio expectations, and the need to maintain a public image made it difficult for her to adapt. Over time, personal issues began to affect her career. Private life struggles and a battle with alcoholism caused the image of a promising young star to gradually fade in the public eye. However, Gail Russell's story should not only be viewed through its difficult periods. It is also a reminder of the pressure many young actors faced when entering Hollywood too early. Behind a face loved by millions is a real human being with fears, insecurities, and personal trials. Although her career did not last as long as initially expected, Gail Russell is still remembered as one of the unique faces of 1940s Hollywood, a testament to the gap between a star's image and life behind the screen. What does Gail Russell's story make you think about the pressure young stars face entering the entertainment world? Share your feelings in the comments, as every perspective contributes to more meaningful conversations about Hollywood history. If you love the stories behind the spotlight of cinematic legends, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to continue joining us on our next special journeys of discovery. In Hollywood history, there are actors remembered not just for their talent, but for their exceptional fit with the characters they portrayed. Lawrence Tierney is such a case. With a cold face, powerful gaze, and high-energy acting style, he quickly made his mark, playing the criminal John Dillinger in the 1945 film Dillinger. This role helped Tierney become one of the prominent faces of the crime genre at that time, where tension and character complexity were key. However, Tierney's career also faced many difficulties in maintaining a long-term professional image. For years, he was known for his strong personality and issues related to behavioral control in his personal life.
Hey, what happened to Marcellus Spivey? Didn't he always move your ice?
He's doing 20 years.
What for?
Bad luck.
I guess you could say that again.
Troubles off-screen gradually affected his professional opportunities, preventing him from continuing to develop his career in the direction many had once expected. For studios, a talented but unpredictable actor was always a major challenge during production. Despite many obstacles, Lawrence Tierney still left his own mark on cinematic history. His later roles, especially his appearance in Quentin Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs, showed the charisma of an actor with a very distinctive style. Tierney's story isn't just about difficult periods. It also reflects the reality that talent in Hollywood sometimes needs to go hand in hand with the ability to adapt and find balance in life. A memorable career is built not only by moments of success, but also by how an artist overcomes their own challenges. When audiences think of fathers, uncles, or kind-hearted men in classic Hollywood, Thomas Mitchell is a name that is hard to miss. He possessed a special ability to create a sense of warmth and sincerity for every role. From Gerald O'Hara in Gone with the Wind to Uncle Billy in It's a Wonderful Life, Mitchell often appeared as a character who brought warmth and reliability to the story. But behind that friendly image was a much more complex personal life. Like many artists of the old Hollywood era, Mitchell faced pressures from fame, work, and the stressful lifestyle of the entertainment industry. Issues related to alcohol once affected his private life and public image. In an era when studios prioritized maintaining a star's image, many of an artist's personal struggles were not viewed as publicly as they are today. What is notable about Thomas Mitchell is the stark difference between the characters he portrayed on screen and the man he was in real life. An artist can bring peace to millions of viewers while still facing very personal trials in life. Mitchell's legacy was ultimately built on his memorable acting talent. The roles he left behind continue to prove that behind every familiar Hollywood face, there always exists a deeply human story. During the classic Hollywood era, young actors were often seen as the promising faces of the future. Skip Homeyer was one of the prominent child talents of the 1940s, gaining attention for his ability to portray characters with depth and complex psychology at a very young age. In particular, his role in the 1944 film Tomorrow the World earned him significant recognition for his portrayal of a character with a strong personality that differed from the typical image of children seen on screen at the time. However, achieving fame as a child also brought its own pressures. Hollywood at that time was a highly competitive environment where young actors often had to quickly adapt to professional work schedules and audience expectations. As he grew up, Homeyer faced the familiar challenge of many child stars: how to move past their childhood image and build a new place in the film industry. Not every young talent can easily transition from early fame to a stable adult career. Skip Homeyer's story shows that success coming too early sometimes carries responsibilities and pressures that not everyone sees. His journey is not just the story of a once famous child actor, but also reflects how Hollywood has changed through different eras and how young artists must find their own path after the initial limelight. If you love stories from behind the classic Hollywood screen, share your thoughts in the comments. Whose journey in today's video impressed you the most? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss cinematic history, unexplored perspectives, and the special journeys of Hollywood icons in upcoming videos. During Hollywood's golden age, Mary Astor had one of the most distinctive journeys. Starting her career at a very young age, she quickly became a familiar face on screen, thanks to her elegant beauty and natural acting ability. Over several decades, Astor went through different phases of the film industry, from the silent era until Hollywood entered the era of sound films. Her most famous role in The Maltese Falcon helped Mary Astor's name be remembered as an important part of classic cinema. But alongside professional success, Mary Astor's life also went through periods of intense pressure. One of the most talked about events is the story related to her personal diary in the 1930s. When her private content was brought to light during a family dispute, the incident drew massive media attention and became one of the high-profile stories in Hollywood at the time. It showed the difference between a person's private life and the public's curiosity toward famous stars. What makes Mary Astor's story memorable is not just the controversies surrounding her private life, but her ability to overcome difficulties and continue her career. After personal upheavals, she returned to the screen and proved her talent through many different roles. Mary Astor's journey shows that behind the image of a Hollywood star, there is always a real person with challenges, choices, and the ability to stand up after difficult times. In the 1930s and 1940s, Errol Flynn was one of the most famous male actors in Hollywood. With his charismatic looks, confident aura, and ability to portray adventurous characters, he quickly became an icon of classic action cinema. Roles like Robin Hood in The Adventures of Robin Hood helped Flynn build the image of a romantic, strong hero who always captivated audiences worldwide. However, Errol Flynn's life off-screen was much more complex than the characters he played. He was famous for his flamboyant lifestyle and frequently appeared in media-catching stories. In particular, a legal case in the early 1940s became one of the most controversial events of his career. Although the final legal outcome favored Flynn, the controversy surrounding the event continues to be mentioned in many accounts of classic Hollywood. Errol Flynn's story reflects an era when major studios played a huge role in building a star's image. They not only promoted talent, but also controlled how the public perceived the artist. Although his life contained many controversial aspects, there is no denying that Flynn remained one of the influential faces of 1930s, 1940s cinema. His legacy exists in the combination of memorable roles and a life filled with complex stories. Charles Laughton was one of the most talented actors of the classic Hollywood generation. Not possessing the image of a traditional glamorous star, he conquered audiences with the depth of his acting, his versatility, and his special understanding of character psychology. From his role as Captain Bligh in Mutiny on the Bounty to the character of Quasimodo in The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Laughton always delivered performances that stayed with viewers long after the movie ended. But behind his excellence on screen was a man who always faced many personal pressures. Laughton was known as a perfectionist artist who set very high demands for himself and those he worked with. His intense work style sometimes created tense situations on set, especially in an era when the line between artistic rigor and professional pressure was not viewed as it is today. His personal life was also affected by social pressures and the prejudices of the time. However, the most important thing when looking back at Charles Laughton is the artistic legacy he left behind. He was not only a successful actor, but also a creator, always seeking depth in every role. Laughton's story reminds us that even the greatest artists have complex facets behind the stage lights. Success does not mean a person is without their own struggles. Charles Laughton left behind a thought-provoking question: can talent be completely separated from struggles in personal life? What about you? What impressed you most about his journey? Write your thoughts in the comments to exchange with the film-loving community. And if you want to hear more special stories behind the legendary names of Hollywood, please support the channel with a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. As Hollywood entered its golden age, Linda Darnell was one of the most anticipated young faces on the American screen. Born with striking beauty and natural acting ability, she entered the film industry at a very young age. 20th Century Fox quickly recognized Darnell's potential and built her up as one of the representative actresses of the new generation. For years, her image appeared in magazines, promotional posters, and major films, making her one of the audience's favorite stars. Works such as Forever Amber, A Letter to Three Wives, and The Mark of Zorro contributed to confirming her place in classic Hollywood. However, behind the perfect exterior that the public saw was an actress who had to mature very quickly in an ever-changing industry. From a young age, Darnell had to get used to a grueling work schedule, massive expectations from the studio, and the pressure to maintain an image that others had created for her.
How'd it feel? You don't have to tell me, I can tell you.
You ought to...
That's what you thought to yourself.
You ought to get a
As she moved past her stage as a promising young star, Linda Darnell began to face a familiar but harsh reality of Hollywood at the time. The film industry often placed high value on youth and outward appearance, especially for actresses. As audience tastes changed and new faces appeared, the positions of many once famous stars changed as well. For Darnell, this transition was not easy. Major opportunities no longer came as frequently as before, while her personal life also went through many upheavals. Difficulties in relationships and instability in the later stages of her career forced her to find ways to adapt to a life no longer surrounded by stage lights as before. Darnell's story reflects a side of classic Hollywood rarely mentioned. Behind every perfect image constructed by the studio is a real person facing change, expectation, and sometimes a sense of disorientation when the limelight is no longer as bright as it once was. Despite having many difficult periods in her life, Linda Darnell still left a unique mark in cinematic history. The films she participated in continue to be discussed by audiences and film scholars as part of Hollywood's golden age. Her Her story is not just about the fame or decline of a star, but also a reminder that reputation in the entertainment industry is always subject to change. An artist may be loved by millions at one time, but behind that success is still a person with feelings, choices, and private struggles. Linda Darnell represents many artists of an era where Hollywood had the power to turn a human being into an icon, but also placed immense pressure on them to maintain that image. Unlike stars who gained fame through glamorous looks or romantic screen images, Albert Dekker built his name through seriousness and the ability to portray characters with depth. He was an actor with a powerful style, often cast in roles demanding maturity, intellect, and the ability to project power. In films like East of Eden and The Wild Bunch, Dekker showed diverse versatility, from characters with social status to people carrying many inner conflicts. Not only active in cinema, he also participated in politics, becoming a member of the California State Legislature. This made Albert Dekker's image different from many contemporary artists, as he was seen not just as an actor, but as a figure with a voice in social life. However, like many other famous Hollywood figures, the public image only reflected part of his life. Behind a successful career was a man with a complex private life and many facets that the public knew little about. In May 1968, Albert Dekker was found dead at his home under unusual circumstances, drawing much media attention. Authorities later concluded it was an accident, but questions surrounding the event have kept people intrigued for years afterward. What is notable about Dekker's story is not the search for dramatic explanations, but how a famous figure can become the focus of curiosity when life behind the scenes is no longer controlled by the familiar Hollywood image. The timing of his death also marked a period when Hollywood was changing dramatically. The old studio system, which once had the ability to tightly control an artist's image, no longer held absolute dominance as in previous decades. Looking back at Albert Dekker, the most important thing remains the legacy he left in cinema and his contributions outside of acting. He represented a generation of Hollywood artists who sought not only fame, but also to participate in broader areas of society. Dekker's story shows that every celebrity has many different layers: a public image, an artistic career, and a private life that audiences don't always see. Instead of just focusing on the controversy surrounding his final years, Albert Dekker's journey reminds us that behind every name in Hollywood history is a complex human being with both successes and unique challenges. In the 1930s, Wallace Beery was one of the most prominent male actors at MGM, one of Hollywood's most powerful studios at the time. With his strong physique, distinctive voice, and highly individual acting style, Beery was often cast as rough-hewn men who still had a touch of humor and emotion. Audiences loved him for his ability to create characters that were both tough and relatable. During his peak, Beery was one of the biggest box office draws and once received the Oscar for Best Actor for the film The Champ. However, behind the image of the artist loved by millions was a powerful personality which made him a controversial figure in the film industry. In the classic Hollywood system, major stars possessed great power. Studios not only managed careers, but also built images, protected reputations, and directed how the public perceived them. Wallace Beery is also an example of the complexity of the relationship between a star and a studio. Those who worked with him had varying comments about his personality and work style. Some described him as an artist with a strong personality, while others suggested he could create a difficult working environment. In the old Hollywood-era studios, often prioritized commercial value, and stars with the ability to attract audiences often received many favors. One of the most talked about events related to Beery was the 1937 incident at the Trocadero nightclub in Los Angeles, involving the death of comedian Ted Healy. Accounts of the event vary, and the details surrounding it remain a subject of debate in Hollywood history. It is important, when looking back at this story, to understand that Hollywood at that time operated in a very different context, where studio power had a significant influence on how incidents involving celebrities were handled. Today, Wallace Beery is remembered primarily as one of the important faces of early 20th century Hollywood cinema. His career reflects an era when studios could create global icons, but also shows the challenges when power, fame, and personal responsibility coexist. Beery's story isn't just about a controversial star. It is a picture of an industry in formation where public image was sometimes far removed from the actual person behind it. Stories like this help us view classic Hollywood with a more comprehensive perspective, not just immortal films, but real human beings with successes, mistakes, and complex journeys. Each star in today's story leaves a different lesson about fame, career, and life behind the limelight. But in your opinion, which story made you think the most? Write your feelings in the comments. We really want to know your perspective. Don't forget that every like, every subscription, and turning on the notification bell is the motivation that helps us continue to bring you historical stories, special characters, and unexplored perspectives.